Welcome the Lord's chosen. They didn't just talk behind your back, chosen one. They built an entire community center there. If you've ever been the quiet force in the room, the one who doesn't chase attention yet somehow becomes the topic, then you already know. When people can't control you, they try to control your narrative. And when that fails, they don't just whisper. They organize a full-blown smear campaign with more creativity than they've ever put into their own lives. Here's the twisted part. Research in social psychology shows that people are more likely to believe a lie they hear repeatedly, even when it's been debunked, simply because it feels familiar in their mind. Not true, just familiar. In other words, they're not just lying about you, they're rehearsing it like a script, hoping repetition will turn fiction into facts in the eyes of those who never bothered to know the real you. And that's exactly where things snap into focus. This isn't just petty gossip. This is a coordinated attempt to rewrite who you are because who you actually are is inconvenient to their storyline. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Your self-respect disrupts their control. Your refusal to play the clown in their circus makes you the villain in their play. So they do what threatened, small-hearted people do. They gather, they exaggerate, they distort, and they serve your name on a platter to anyone hungry for drama and allergic to truth. But here's what they never calculated. A smear campaign against a true chosen one always comes with a plot twist. It looks like your downfall at first, doors closing, people pulling away, side eyes replacing smiles. It feels like exile, like you've been pushed out of your own life. Meanwhile, they're convinced they've won, that they've finally turned the crowd against you, that you'll crawl back broken, desperate, and apologetic for things you never even did. What they don't realize is that this exile is actually an extraction. You're being quietly pulled out of polluted environments, fake alliances, and one-sided dynamics that were never worthy of your destiny in the first place. They think they're burying you, but they're just removing you from their access. They think they're killing your reputation, but they're only killing their last chance to have proximity to the upgraded version of you. And while they're busy obsessively managing your image, something else is happening in the background. Patterns are forming. People start noticing that the person they describe and the person you actually are don't match. They see how peaceful you remain, how you don't launch counter-campaigns, how your life, your work, your presence carry a weight. Their words simply don't. Slowly, quietly, the smear begins to rot from the inside, and the stench doesn't come from your name. So this isn't just a story about them attacking you. This is a ruthless, unfiltered breakdown of what's really going on behind that smear campaign, and why, in the end, the ending will be brutal, but not for you, for them, because when the dust settles, your character will still be standing. Their credibility won't. Number one, they're not destroying your name. They're exposing their own spiritual bankruptcy. When people launch a smear campaign against you, it feels personal, brutal, and unfair. But underneath all that noise, something very revealing is happening. They're not just talking about you, they're accidentally telling the world everything about themselves. Every lie, every twisted story, every exaggerated warning about you is like them standing on a stage with a microphone saying, "Look how insecure, threatened, and empty I really am." Smearing someone takes effort. They have to think about you, talk about you, repeat your name, study your movements, and keep retelling the same story to anyone who will listen. That's not power, that's obsession. Strong, secure people don't have time to campaign against someone else. They're too busy building their own life. The ones who choose to smear you are basically announcing that they have nothing solid of their own to stand on, so they lean on trying to tear you down instead. The ugly truth is this: if your presence didn't expose their weaknesses, they wouldn't be this invested in your downfall. You showed up with integrity, growth, and a kind of quiet strength that made their insecurities itch. Maybe you refused to be controlled. Maybe you stopped playing small. Maybe you stopped tolerating disrespect. Whatever it was, your decision to stand in your truth made them feel smaller in theirs. Rather than level up, they chose the cheaper route, attack you. Over time, people start to pick up on this pattern. They notice how often your name leaves their mouth. They notice how their stories always paint them as the victim and never the villain. They notice that your life, your actions, and your energy don't match the ugly picture being painted. Slowly, the spotlight shifts. The smear doesn't make you look dangerous. It makes them look desperate. So no, they're not destroying your name. They're draining their own credibility, their own integrity, their own soul. And when everything comes out in the long run, it won't be your character on trial. It will be theirs. Number 2, the smear campaign only works on people who were never meant to sit at your table. One of the harshest truths you learn through a smear campaign is this: the people who turn on you that fast were never really with you. They were standing near you, not standing for you. And when the lies start spreading, their reaction exposes exactly where they belong in your life. Anyone who hears a one-sided story and instantly changes toward you is showing their true colors. No questions, no benefit of the doubt, no, let me hear from them first. Just instant judgment. That's not loyalty, that's convenience. They were around for what you gave them: access, energy, validation, connection, not because they genuinely valued who you are at your core. It's painful when they pull away, but that pullback is a gift in disguise. The smear campaign becomes a sorting system. It separates the ones who were only there for the good times from the ones who are built for depth, honesty, and real connection. Because real ones don't cut you off based on gossip. Real ones come straight to you and say, "This is what I heard. Talk to me. I know you better than this." Anyone who doesn't do that is telling you everything you need to know. The truth is, some people were sitting at your table with bad intentions, quiet jealousy, or secret resentment. They laughed with you, but they didn't clap for you. They listened to your dreams, but your growth made them uncomfortable. The smear just gave them an excuse to step into the role they were already rehearsing in their mind. So while it might feel like you're losing people, what's really happening is refinement. The room is being cleared. Fake supporters, shallow friends, and weak-hearted people are being filtered out without you having to beg, argue, or prove your worth. They disqualified themselves. The ones who stay, who ask, who stand by you, those are the ones who deserve a seat at your table. The rest? They were just passing through, and the smear campaign simply sped up their exit. Number 3, their obsession with you is proof you've already outgrown their entire ecosystem. When someone becomes obsessed with you, especially in a negative way, it isn't about your actions, it's about their fear. The more energy they pour into plotting, gossiping, or smearing your name, the more obvious it becomes that you are operating on a completely different level. Your presence shines a light on everything they lack, everything they avoided, and everything they've refused to become. And that makes them desperate. Their constant chatter, the endless rumors, the repeated attempts to manipulate perception, it's all a reaction to a truth they cannot handle. You are already out of their reach. They see the growth, the discipline, the calm control you exhibit, and it threatens the fragile structures they've built to hide their insecurities. They spend time, mental energy, and social capital trying to pull you down because they can't find a way to pull themselves up. The obsession isn't a compliment in the way they might hope. It's proof of inadequacy. They think that if they can make you look small, they can reclaim the attention, admiration, or power they feel slipping through their fingers. But obsession is the opposite of control. It reveals weakness. It shows that you have quietly moved beyond their influence, and the more they try, the more obvious it becomes that they've already lost. Even their most dramatic lies, the wildest exaggerations, and the most aggressive attempts at manipulation are just markers of their fixation. Their narrative revolves around you because your life, your integrity, and your energy are proof that you are unreachable to them. While they spin and scramble, you continue untouched in your rhythm, aware that the very intensity of their attacks only confirms your elevation. Their obsession is a mirror reflecting their own limitations, not your failures. Every rumor they spread, every conversation they start about you, and every effort to make you appear flawed is silently acknowledging that you are ahead, above, and beyond. Their ecosystem cannot contain you anymore, and that's why their fixation will never stop, no matter how hard they try. Number 4, they needed to smear you because your presence highlighted everything they refused to fix. You didn't ruin their life. You didn't destroy their peace. You didn't do something terrible. You simply existed as living proof that change, effort, and accountability are possible. And that alone was enough to make them feel exposed. Your growth reminded them they were staying the same. Your integrity reminded them how often they lie to themselves and others. Your self-respect reminded them of all the times they swallowed disrespect just to feel accepted. You became a walking contradiction to the excuses they've been hiding behind for years. And instead of saying, "I need to do better," they decided, "I need to make you look worse." Your discipline made their laziness obvious. You showed up, you put in work, you set standards, you said no when something didn't sit right with your spirit. That didn't harm them, but it did remove their ability to pretend that everyone is just stuck like this. Your healing exposed their toxicity. While you were processing, forgiving, growing, and breaking cycles, they were clinging to bitterness and old habits. Seeing you break free forced them to confront the truth that they're choosing to stay where they are. Then came your boundaries. That's where things really shifted. The moment you stopped over-explaining yourself, stopped tolerating disrespect, stopped allowing them to drain you and then play victim, your boundaries exposed their manipulative patterns. They could no longer use guilt, silence, or chaos to control you. They lost access to the version of you that would bend just to keep the peace. So instead of facing the reality that they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries, they decided to label you as cold, selfish, fake, or disloyal. It was easier for them to smear your character than to sit with their own reflection. Attacking you helped them avoid accountability. Turning you into the villain allowed them to stay the hero in their own story. So no, you didn't break them. You just shined too much light on what was already broken. And rather than repair it, they chose to come for you. Number 5. The goal was never to tell the truth. It was to rewrite reality so they don't have to be the villain. When someone starts a smear campaign against you, it's easy to get stuck asking, why are they lying like this? But the real question isn't why they lie. It's what the lie does for them. Because deep down, they know what they did. They know where they crossed the line. They know the moments they used you, disrespected you, or betrayed you. The smear is not about exposing who you are. It's about protecting who they refuse to admit they've become. Smear campaigns are not built on facts. They're built on emotional anesthesia. They can't sit with the reality that they were cruel, selfish, manipulative, or ungrateful, so they twist the story until you become the unsafe one. They paint you as the betrayer, the abuser, the liar, the problem. That way, they don't have to feel guilty for what they did. In their mind, they're not abandoning you. You deserved it. They're not betraying you, they're escaping you. See how that works? The lie numbs their responsibility. They need your name damaged so their conscience can stay untouched. If people see you as the monster, then they never have to explain why they walked away, why they switched up, why they did what they did. The uglier they make you look, the more justified they feel. It's their way of saying, I'm not the villain, I was just defending myself. Even when the truth is, they're defending their ego, not their safety. This isn't justice, it's self-medication with lies. Gossip becomes their painkiller. Exaggeration becomes their bandage. Over-dramatizing what happened becomes their escape from responsibility. The tragedy is that they start believing their own story over time. They repeat it so often that it starts to feel real. And anyone who doesn't agree with their version becomes blind, naive, or on your side. But no matter how many times they rewrite the script, reality doesn't disappear. Truth has a way of lingering in the background, waiting. And when it returns, it won't be your character on trial. It'll be the story they built to avoid ever admitting, I was wrong. Number 6. The more they talk, the more they trap themselves in a narrative they can't escape from. Smear campaigns have a dangerous weight for the people running them, one they rarely realize. Every time they open their mouth, type a message, or whisper your name, they add another brick to the cage they are building around themselves. Lies are heavy. They need constant upkeep, constant repetition, constant attention, because the truth doesn't need anyone to defend it. Every fabrication requires memory, strategy, and effort, like maintaining a house of cards on a windy day. One small slip, one overlooked detail, and everything starts to collapse. Liars must keep track of every word they've spoken, every story they've told, and every person who's heard it. They have to remember the lies about you so they don't contradict themselves, because the moment someone notices inconsistency, their entire evidence begins to crumble. Lies demand energy and focus that could otherwise be spent on building, creating, or living honestly. But instead, they spend all their energy making sure the lie lives longer than it should. Over time, the stories escalate. Small exaggerations aren't enough. The narrative must grow darker, more dramatic, more sensational. They add layers to keep attention, but those layers also tighten the trap. The more extreme the story, the harder it becomes to maintain consistency. Eventually, the contradictions leak out. Someone starts to notice that their version of events doesn't match reality. Others see the patterns of exaggeration, the recycled phrases, the subtle slips that reveal obsession rather than truth. They think they are building a case against you, creating proof that you are the problem, the villain, or the disruptor. But the reality is the opposite. Every lie, every rumor, every overblown anecdote they push into the world becomes a marker of their own deceit. They are not exposing your character. They are creating a record of their own desperation, insecurity, and moral weakness. The louder they shout, the clearer it becomes. They are prisoners of the very story they wanted to control. Number 7. The smear forced you into isolation, but isolation is where the chosen are recalibrated, not destroyed. When the smear campaign hits, one of the most painful parts is how people start pulling away. Calls stop. Invitations dry up. Rooms you used to walk into freely suddenly feel cold and distant. They wanted you to feel rejected, abandoned, and powerless. In their mind, if they could isolate you, they could break you. But they miscalculated who you are. Isolation for someone like you doesn't work the way they think it does. When the noise dies down and the crowd disappears, something powerful starts happening behind the scenes. Without their opinions in your ear, without their projections smothering your identity, you finally have space to hear yourself clearly. You begin to feel the difference between who you truly are and who they tried to convince you that you were. the confusion starts to lift. The fog starts to clear. You're no longer reacting to their drama. You're reconnecting to your direction. In that quiet, you gain clarity. You see the patterns you were too busy to notice before. You see who was draining you, who was using you, who only stood beside you because it benefited them. You recognize the emotional traps you kept walking into. You see where you were shrinking just to keep certain people comfortable. The same isolation they meant as a cage becomes a mirror and then a map. Then comes strategy. Once your emotions settle and your spirit stops wrestling with the shock of abandonment, your mind starts moving differently. You start planning from a higher place, not from survival mode. You begin making decisions based on alignment, not approval. You redefine what you'll accept, what you'll tolerate, and what you're done entertaining for good. They thought they were punishing you by cutting you off. What they actually did was remove access to your energy, your loyalty, your presence, and your light. They removed distractions, not your destiny. The isolation they engineered as a weapon became your sanctuary, your training ground, your reset point. By the time you step back out, you're not the same. You're sharper, calmer, more aware, and more aligned. They tried to bury you in silence, not realizing that silence is where the chosen don't die. They evolve. Number 8, their smear campaign proved that you were the glue, the light, and the silent backbone the entire time. One of the most ironic outcomes of a smear campaign is what happens after they successfully push you out. They work overtime to convince everyone that you were the issue, that everything would be better without you, that peace would return once you were gone. They cast you as the storm in the story, but once they finally remove you, something very exposing happens. Everything starts collapsing without you there. You don't have to defend yourself. All you have to do is watch patterns. The same friendships that used to thrive when you were present suddenly feel strained. Group chats go dead. Energies shift. People who used to be cool with each other start clashing. Old drama resurfaces. Unspoken tensions that you used to quietly manage start exploding because the invisible mediator is no longer in the room, you. You were the one calming things down, diffusing awkward moments, translating misunderstandings, and holding space for people who were secretly at odds. And you did it so naturally that even you didn't realize how much weight you were carrying. They thought removing you would fix everything, but your absence exposes a hard truth. You weren't the problem, you were the balance. You were the one who remembered birthdays, checked on people, smoothed over conflicts, and adjusted your energy to keep peace. You absorbed the disrespect, overlooked the side comments, and stayed patient to stop situations from blowing up. When you left, all of that unrecognized labor disappeared with you. Now the room gets to feel what it's like without your stabilizing presence. And it's not as peaceful as they promised it would be. Their mask starts slipping too. Without you there to buffer their mood swings, defend their character, or cover their flaws, people now see them more clearly. The same controlling, insecure, or manipulative traits they tried to project onto you begin to show in their own behavior. And over time, others quietly start to realize, hold on, the same drama they blamed on you is still happening and you're not even around. That's when the smear loses power, not because you argued your way out of it, but because reality did. Your absence becomes proof. The chaos that remains is the evidence. And slowly, people begin to understand that the one they pushed out was actually the glue, the light, and the silent backbone that made everything work in the first place. Number 9, people are starting to notice that your actual life doesn't match the villain they've described. At first, the smear campaign is loud. Their stories are dramatic, emotional, and heavy. People lean in because chaos is entertaining, and drama travels faster than truth. For a while, their version of you might seem convincing, especially to those who don't know you deeply. But time has a way of testing narratives, and that's where everything starts shifting in your favor. While they're busy talking, you're busy living. You keep showing up as yourself, calm, focused, growing, choosing your battles, and refusing to play in the mud with them. You don't match the character they've written for you. They say you're bitter, but you move in peace. They say you're dangerous, but your actions are grounded and stable. They say you're jealous, but you clap for others and keep building your own lane. They say you're unstable, but your life, over time, shows structure, growth, and self-control. That's when people who are paying attention start to feel something isn't adding up. They see how you handle pressure. They notice you're not going from person to person trying to recruit sympathy or backup. You're not doing a counter-smear, not obsessively trying to make them look bad in return. You're too busy healing, working, elevating, and minding your path. The contrast becomes sharp. One side can't stop talking about you. The other side is quietly leveling up. One side is emotional chaos. The other side is consistent character. Eventually, the questions begin, but not to your face, to theirs. If this person is so terrible, why do they seem so calm? If they're really that toxic, how come I've never experienced that from them? If they're the problem, why does their life show more growth than destruction? That quiet mismatch between your reputation and your reality becomes your loudest defense. You don't need long speeches. You don't need to flip tables or expose every detail. Your life begins to testify for you. Your consistency becomes your lawyer. Your peace becomes your statement. And over time, the smear no longer makes you look like a villain. It makes them look like someone who was desperate to turn a whole, growing, imperfect, but genuine human being into a caricature just to avoid dealing with their own issues. The story they told about you starts to collapse under the weight of your truth. Number 10, what they meant for social execution became your spiritual separation notice. Smear campaigns feel like a public death sentence. They try to erase you from circles, ruin your name, and make you untouchable in spaces you once belonged to. They want you socially executed, cut off, cancelled, and discarded. But what looks like a brutal ending on the surface is often something much deeper in disguise. A separation that needed to happen, but you would have never initiated on your own. You were never meant to stay where they tried to bury you. Long before the smear, you started feeling it, those quiet inner nudges, the discomfort, the way your spirit felt heavy around certain people, the way you kept shrinking yourself to keep the peace, the way you questioned your own value because of how casually they treated you. You knew something was off. You may have even prayed for clarity, for a sign, for elevation, for a way out of cycles that drained you. You just didn't know the exit door would look like betrayal and lies. The smear feels like everything is being taken from you, your community, your reputation, your comfort, your familiar spaces. But in reality, it's shutting down access to rooms that were slowly poisoning you. People you thought you needed are stripped away. Spaces you thought validated you no longer welcome you. It hurts, but that removal is also a rescue. You're being pulled from environments where your light was tolerated, not honored, where your loyalty was consumed, not reciprocated. They thought they were burying you. What they actually did was sign your release papers. The smear becomes the final push that ejects you from cycles of emotional slavery, people-pleasing, manipulation, and spiritual stagnation. You would have kept trying, kept fixing, kept explaining, kept proving. But once they publicly turn on you, there's no going back. That line is drawn. The bridge is burned. And on the other side of that fire, you find a strange kind of freedom. You didn't lose a community. You were escorted out of a contaminated system, a system built on ego, control, gossip, and hidden resentment. a system that was never designed for your long-term growth, only for your usefulness to them. The smear looks like their victory, but step back and you'll see it for what it is. A forced relocation of your soul, a separation that clears your path, severs toxic ties, and positions you for rooms and relationships that match who you're becoming, not who you had to pretend to be to survive around them. Number 11. They turned your name into a rumor, but God turned your story into a warning label on them. When they started smearing you, they thought they were turning you into a lesson for others. Don't trust them. Don't deal with them. Look what they did. Your name became a cautionary tale on their lips, something they tossed around casually, like you were a walking disaster and they were the poor, innocent survivors. They used your story to gain sympathy, boost their ego, and position themselves as the wise ones who escaped you. But time has a way of quietly rearranging the truth. As the months and years pass, people begin to notice patterns. You weren't the only one they talked about like that. Before you, there were others. After you, there will be more. Different names, same script. Everybody somehow becomes toxic, crazy, ungrateful, or jealous once they no longer serve that person's narrative. And that's when something clicks in the minds of those watching. You are not the common denominator. They are. Your name, which they tried to stain, slowly starts to mean something else entirely. People realize, wait, they said the same thing about this other person, and another, and another. At some point, the math stops mathing. The problem can't always be everyone else. The storm can't follow them from person to person without them being the lightning. Without you saying a word, your experience with them becomes a reference point. New people come around them, hear your story in their twisted version, and brush it off at first. But then they start feeling the same manipulation, the same guilt tripping, the same drama, the same pattern of using people, then villainizing them. And now, your name, once used as a negative example, becomes evidence. Your story becomes a quiet warning label stamped across their behavior. Be careful. This is what they do to people. They thought dragging your name would forever damage you. Instead, it built a trail of receipts they didn't intend to create. You weren't the cursed one. They were the unstable thread running through every broken relationship, every fallout, every "they did me dirty" story. Your story doesn't frame you as the one to avoid. It exposes them as the one who cannot be trusted. So while they turned your name into a rumor, life turned your experience into a reference file on their character. They wanted you to be the warning. In the end, the warning was about them. Number 12. Their ending is harsh because they built their reputation on borrowed credibility and broken bridges. People who smear, manipulate, and destroy reputations often do so because they've never built anything solid of their own. Their influence is borrowed. It exists only as long as they can lean on others, twist stories, and exploit relationships. Every connection they claim is fragile. Every achievement is amplified at someone else's expense. And every smile they wear is often masking envy, insecurity, or control. The house they live in is made of borrowed bricks, and eventually that house collapses under its own weight. When someone constructs their entire social world by tearing others down, the cracks begin to show. At first, people buy the story. New acquaintances hear the lies, believe them, and unknowingly reinforce the false narrative. But the problem is, patterns are persistent. They repeat. Lies that were effective once need to be repeated over and over, and eventually, consistency becomes the enemy. People start noticing a rhythm of destruction. Every friend is accused, every circle fractured, every victory they celebrate is built on someone else's expense. That pattern sticks out more than any single rumor ever could. Slowly, trust erodes. Even the people who initially supported them start keeping distance. feeling the instability and exhaustion of being around someone whose relationships are always transactional. Opportunities begin to dry up because no one wants to invest energy into someone who thrives on sabotage rather than collaboration. Their short-term victories, the gossip, the attention, the fleeting control, feel satisfying at the moment, but it's a high that doesn't last. The long-term consequences are brutal. They've burned the bridges that could have carried them forward, borrowed credibility that eventually expires, and a network that once amplified them now avoids them entirely. People see through the chaos, the exaggerations, the manipulations. Doors close, opportunities vanish, and the energy they once commanded turns into distance and indifference. In the end, the smear may have temporarily made them feel powerful, but their life, their reputation, and their relationships bear the cost. They win the drama, but they lose the life. The harsh ending wasn't delivered by karma. It was written by the very system they themselves constructed. Number 13, your loss was external. Their loss is internal, and internal losses are the ones you don't easily recover from. When people smear you, it often feels like the world is shrinking. Friends turn away, circles fracture, opportunities vanish. It hurts, it stings, it feels like rejection in its rawest form. But that pain is external. It's about environments and relationships, things you can rebuild, replace, and even improve on with time. Losing them doesn't define your future, it protects it. Every person who leaves because of lies or manipulation was never meant to be part of your journey anyway. Their departure makes space for stability, authenticity, and growth. Now consider them. The ones who attacked, twisted, and distorted the truth. They didn't just risk social fallout, they eroded something far deeper inside themselves. Every lie, every manipulation, every smear chipped away at their integrity. Every effort to distort reality for personal gain damaged their credibility. Every moment spent orchestrating chaos rather than building created a disconnect between who they really are and who they want others to see. Unlike you, they can't simply rebuild relationships. Their loss is internal, and internal losses are far harder to repair. You can find new friends, healthier environments, and authentic spaces to thrive in. They have to live inside themselves, constantly negotiating the gap between appearance and reality, conscience and ambition. You lost people who weren't truly yours to keep. They lost the part of themselves that allowed them to stand in truth, act with honor, and maintain peace. What feels like your setback is actually pruning. It clears away the false, the toxic, and the draining. What feels like their victory is actually a wound that can fester indefinitely. One is temporary, manageable, and ultimately constructive. The other is corrosive, lingering, and slowly eats at the soul. While your life moves forward, rebuilt and strengthened, their inner world contracts, haunted by the chaos they created and the truth they refuse to face. The pain they've sown externally is a reflection of a far deeper, irreversible loss inside. And that is where the real damage lies. Number 14, in the end, your name will outlive the smear. Theirs will be forever tied to what they did to you. No matter how loud the lies, how widespread the gossip, or how intense the smear campaign, time has a way of separating truth from theatrics. Your name, your character, and your life are bigger than the attempts to diminish them. The smear may feel like a tidal wave in the moment, but in the grand narrative of your life, it's only a small chapter, one that you move through, survive, and rise above. Your legacy isn't written by their venom. It's written by the consistent, disciplined, and authentic life you lead. Over time, people start noticing the mismatch between the story they've been told and the reality they witness. Your actions, your energy, your resilience, they tell a story they cannot rewrite. While they tried to make you appear small, chaotic, or flawed, your life quietly demonstrates growth, strength, and integrity. That contrast becomes undeniable, and the smear loses its weight. What was meant to be your downfall instead becomes a footnote, a remember when, in the larger triumphant story of who you are. For them, the opposite is true. Their moment of power becomes permanent evidence. Every lie, every rumor, every effort to manipulate perception becomes tied to their name, not yours. History, memory, and people's intuition remember patterns, not just one-off incidents. They will be remembered as the ones who tried to destroy someone irreplaceable. And in doing so, they reveal their own insecurity, weakness, and inability to create rather than destroy. Their identity becomes inseparable from the damage they attempted to inflict. The smear ends, but the consequences of it linger far longer for them than for you. Your story continues, growing, evolving, and expanding. Their story is frozen in the moment of their attempt, a cautionary tale of envy, obsession, and moral compromise. And that is their self-authored ending, brutal, revealing, and inescapably theirs, while your name outlives every shadow they tried to cast. Conclusion. The journey through a smear campaign is never easy. It feels like betrayal, rejection, and chaos all rolled into one. The people you trusted, the circles you cherished, and the environments you worked hard to thrive in can suddenly feel foreign, cold, and hostile. But here's the undeniable truth. Everything they tried to do to break you, isolate you, or define you was never actually about you. It was a reflection of their own insecurities, shortcomings, and fears. Every lie they spread, every rumor they whispered, every attempt to rewrite your reality revealed more about them than it ever could about you. In that crucible of conflict, something extraordinary happens. The smear, while painful, becomes a catalyst for growth. Isolation sharpens your clarity. Distance strengthens your alignment. The chaos around you exposes the patterns of those who cannot be trusted, allowing you to prune what no longer serves your journey. Your consistency, discipline, and integrity shine brighter in contrast to their desperate attempts to diminish you. What they meant to destroy, the truth of who you are, your peace, your power, emerges even stronger, unshakable, and undeniable. Every lie they told becomes a marker of their own moral failure. Every attempt to rewrite your story becomes evidence of their obsession and inability to create, build, or evolve. And while their short-term victories may have seemed loud, the long-term consequences belong to them. The bridges they burned, the credibility they squandered, and the chaos they left in their wake will define them far more than the fleeting power they tried to claim over you. Meanwhile, your legacy continues to grow, rooted in truth, authenticity, and resilience. You rise, you evolve, and you become the embodiment of what they could never understand or replicate. The harsh reality of a smear campaign is that while they hope to leave a mark on your life, the permanent mark is theirs. Their ending is tied to the chaos they caused, while yours is written in clarity, strength, and elevated purpose. You are not defined by their lies. You are defined by your response, your growth, and the life you continue to build beyond their reach. In the end, the story speaks for itself, and the truth always finds a way to shine through. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more insights that elevate, empower, and expose the truth. Like this video to show your support, comment below to share your thoughts or experiences, and don't forget to share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Your journey deserves to be seen, understood, and celebrated. Stay blessed always.